And what is up? What is up? Thank you once again for joining the next episode of the Playback Podcast. And today I'm joined with Reaper. Reaper, man, how you been?
I'm fucking exhausted, man. How you been?
I mean, I've been good. What you been gaming on? I mean, we can hear you gaming right now.
Yeah, I actually just picked up Far Cry 5 for the sole fact that it's based in Montana, and not gonna lie, that shit is honestly very fucking true to my home state. It's kind of weird how they actually captured the beauty of my state while still making a very twisted backstory to a game that's honestly the first 5 minutes is just like, oh, this is great, and then 20 seconds later you're thinking to yourself, holy fuck, I never want to go to Montana again.
Yeah, quasi cult / doomsday cult / militant rednecks. Kind of an interesting mix. Really.
And you know what? What the interesting thing about it though is that like certain parts of Montana, if you ever go there, like if you ever played Far Cry 5 and you were to go to Montana on vacation, there are certain parts where you'd walk around and be like, you know what? I could honestly see this being somewhere fucking a militant cult would live. It's very, very creepy how accurate, like how perfectly thought out that location was chosen.
Yeah.
How is it compared to like Fallout 4's Boston rendition? Because I know you live in Boston, so
from what I've played so far, I don't really know what city or what area it's based around, but it's not really the fairest of comparisons. I mean, Fallout 4, Fallout 4. They straight up said this game is set in Boston. They captured things like Fenway, calling it New Diamond City, but they actually took stuff from the actual city of Boston and put it in the game and just changed the name of it. Whereas this is just, we're gonna drop you in the middle of fucking Montana and we're gonna put you, which is literally in all aspects, it's just the middle of fucking nowhere. But
well,
so we're gonna put you in the middle of Montana.
They might have taken like the best parts and just like kind of coagulated, like they have like the natural park area, they have like a lot of the riverbeds and stuff like that, and like some of the smaller, like I would say townships at best, because like you see a town that has less than 30 houses, that's like a hamlet in D&D. Yeah, no, I get, because I've played both games. I've never been to Boston, and I've never been to Montana, but I could kind of definitely feel the very like an homage versus like a hey, we're gonna take real landscapes and real touch points and put them in play, and then you're just gonna kind of work around that. Which I still think both are really great at immersion, because like I would assume for Reaper, Fallout 4 would have a lot more interesting callbacks because like he sees Diamond City and he's like, okay, I've been to games here, and like you can kind of get that real feel versus like if you go to like Fallout 5's Montana, and just be like you could see the nature and you understand what it is without having to be like an immediate callback to an actual thing.
Right. Yeah.
Right on. So you've been playing Fallout 5. What are you playing right now? Go ahead, admit
right now
it.
I'm banging out Destiny with Frodo to get his milestones done and to kill some actually not kill time, but just really hanging out with Frodo.
Right on. Are you getting ready for Forsaken?
Yeah. Frodo and I actually discussed today, because I have all three of my characters set up now. My Hunter is almost max level. My Titan's almost level 30. They just released the new Raid Lair Prestige modes, so just trying to get as much in as I can before Forsaken comes out, and I only focus on one character again.
Right on. And we're also joined once again by the wonderful Duke of Deception. Duke, man, how have you been? What have you been playing?
I'm doing all right, just kind of doing the daily grind. I've been doing some upgrades. I came into a little bit of money, Everyone has 2 kidneys. I still have 2, but I got money for selling 1 from someone else. They actually don't ask a whole lot of questions these days. So I upgraded my gaming rig to a new video card and things like that, a GTX 1060, just because, I can't pay $500 for a card, even selling kidneys. But I'm glad that video card prices are dropping a little bit. Cryptocurrency is kind of on its way out because it's not instantly a moneymaker. Prepping for some big game launches today. I know we're going to talk about WoW for just a moment. Currently, game-wise, I've been playing a little bit of more State of Decay 2, a little bit of Ghost Recon Wildlands. Been playing a lot more Overwatch because of some community changes that occurred, and I think we're going to touch on that as well. So I've been kind of splitting my time between console and PC last couple weeks.
Right on, right on. I'm actually surprised just because I've been playing it, but I'm actually surprised you didn't say that you were playing Vermintide 2.
See, and that's the thing, because I really like Warhammer Vermintide. I didn't know anyone else was currently playing it, because we played the first one when it was a Game for Gold, and I played it on PC a long time back. And it's really fun, I think, with friends. I haven't tried 2 yet as a solo player, because it's like a Left 4 Dead game. It's really best if you have a core group of friends that you can scream at to pick you up because you're being murdered by a giant rat monster, and they willingly just run away from that. So it's more frustrating when it's strangers. When it's friends, it's funny.
Right on, right on. Yeah, actually, that's one of the games I've actually been playing myself because they just dropped that with the Games of Gold for this month. And
Game Pass?
I'm sorry, Game Pass. Yeah, I don't know why.
Games of Gold. I'm gonna go.
Yeah, they swapped out the Games of Gold. So yeah, yeah, no, it is on the Game Pass and everything. So I've been playing it. Actually, I find it very enjoyable. It is. I mean, it's Left 4 Dead. Just in the Warhammer universe,
which is brutal.
I like but I do like the progression. I think that the thing that was always the drawback is that you could continuously play and play and play, and you really feel like you're getting nowhere, and so the repetitiveness would eventually get to you, even as random as it could be, right? But because you can build your character and you collect your weapons and you can upgrade and this and that. Each time it's a little bit different. Of course, you can change the difficulty. The more difficulty you have, the better it gets and everything. At the first few times I ran through with some randos, it was pretty rough, I'll have to say. But eventually, I found a good group of guys that we were just able to just start knocking them out, which was actually pretty fun. I actually started also playing Pokemon Go again, really weird. My son actually, well, the reason being is because it was on my phone, and my son actually had clicked onto the game, and he just started tossing Pokeballs. So what I was doing is I was just like, eventually he ends up running out of the Pokeballs, so I was just going to places and I was picking up the Pokeballs. And I mean, whenever the Pokemon game releases later on this year, because you can transfer from your Pokemon Go to the Let's Go game, I was like, it's almost like a no-brainer. So I figured I'd get a little bit of a jump. And the other day, oh my gosh, I can't believe this, but I missed out on a Mewtwo. It was in the area. Couldn't find where it was at. Not that I was going to be able to catch it, but it was just heartbreaking seeing that was out there, and you're like, and then of course a little bit of Destiny, and actually been getting back into Ark. Just been bored. Yes. Not a lot of good games out that are. I can't say not a lot of good games, but not a lot of games that are actually intriguing me. I tried giving State of Decay a run. It's just. It just doesn't get me. I'm pretty sure it's because it's the zombie genre, and unless it's the Resident Evil zombies, I could really care less. So, but yeah, that's what
I was about to say. You're complaining about a zombie game, and yet you want to pick up Resident Evil 2 the day that shit comes out.
Because Resident Evil is how zombies should be. I don't need the World War Z version of zombies, or the 28 Days Later where they come running full speed at you.
The rage zombies.
I want the regular zombies, the ones that
the Romeros.
So you can escape them, but then you realize that you ran into a whole horde of them, and that's really hard to escape. Even though they're not fast, there's just way too many of them.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anybody seen any movies recently? I know Ant-Man just released and Jurassic World not too long ago.
That's on my list. I just haven't been able to get my weekends have been filled up. Social life, have been filling up lately. So I've been trying to get out to Ant-Man. I feel really bad because it's outside of its opening weekend. Yeah, I think the last movie I saw was Incredibles 2, which was real
Right
solid.
on.
It's great that
Incredibles.
Disney can make a fantastic.
Did you say
horror
Incredibles 2 or did you see Incredibles 3?
The Incredibles 2.
Oh, I guess it is. I don't know why I'm thinking Transylvania 3. That's my.
Yeah, no, Incredibles 2.
I'm
okay.
half the time I'm an idiot. Okay.
Yeah.
The other half the time I'm really an idiot. So
I was
you gotta
about to say, man,
Half the time, we're
that's
solid.
a hell of a turnaround. 14 years and then 2 months. That's
Right?
how you know progress is being
That's
made.
skill.
Hey,
That's how you know
progress.
they've been
Any way you can
stockpiling
get it.
for a
Right.
while.
So let's go ahead and let's get into some of these topics. We don't got a whole lot of them. You know, there's not a whole lot of like really intriguing gaming news on, but there's a lot of I'd say tomfoolery going around. Actually, the first thing that I think that we're going to be touching on the Guild Wars 2 devs that recently got themselves into a lot of hot water. Duke, you know a little bit more about exactly what's going on with that situation. Would you care to elaborate about that?
Okay, so this is a forward because I was not a first party. I wasn't there on Twitter when it happened or any of that stuff. This is just kind of the aftermath stuff that I picked up. So for the basic laydown is that Jessica Price, who was part of ArenaNet, which are the people behind Guild Wars, she's a narrative designer. She on her personal Twitter thread was basically doing her normal thing. Was making comments and things like that, and basically she got she responded to a comment on her thread when she was talking about basically how hard it is to lock into a narrative for a character. So like when you're making an MMO, you have basic kind of like dialogue options so that the player is still able to kind of insert themselves as their character without being like a hard line. Like you can be Shepherd, and there's a very distinct thing when you think of Shepherd versus when you think of your MMO champion, right? So if you play MMOs a lot, you have who you think you is versus the Shepherd from Mass Effect. So if like there's the branching dialogue tree versus just an open dialogue. And so the thing that occurred that kind of, I guess, broke the camel's back for Jessica was that a YouTube / I would say critic or kind of like what we are, just reviewer, made unsolicited advice where they stated that, you know, maybe branching dialogue options, and basically tried to explain to someone whose job it is to know these things, how these things go. And Jessica responded. I would say she responded, and that caused backlash. So that's without trying to put spin on anything. So if you want, there's hundreds of articles out there about this from a lot of different point of views. And this, I guess, kind of brings us back to, I would say, the Gamergate / the female game dev and my people of minority or people of color or female devs in the gaming world and how it's being treated. Because the thing that made it crazy was that ArenaNet, primarily through Mike O'Brien, publicly sacked Jessica Price, as well as one of a defender who was also a worker or a co-worker of Jessica's, for responding. And they did so in a very public and kind of abrasive manner.
Yeah,
and again,
it really seemed like that they drug him through the streets. You know,
and if you want, I'll read the quote, which is: recently, 2 of our employees failed to uphold our standards of communicating with players. Their attacks on the community were unacceptable. As a result, they are no longer with the company. Like, besides the words, the attacks on the community were unacceptable, this would be a standard byline. Hey, these do not represent the views of the company. These are personal views held by these employees. They're no longer with the company. If you would have made a standard line, this would have been just like a minor story. But the fact that you have company C-suite individuals that are physically pointing out their employees and being like, these people are attacking our community and we will not stand for it, kind of like if you had a boss that when you made you got fired and your boss went to social media and talked about how you are the problem with the company, it's slightly a lot worse than you just got fired for drinking on the job or something, or whatever the hell you do. Like it exacerbates the situation. So there's been an ongoing discussion in the gaming spheres of like, was that appropriate? Was that not appropriate? Was this an overstep? Was it an understep? And so if you've kept your head under a rock, or you try to avoid these types of stories, I'm trying to be as unbiased, left or right, on this as possible, and I'm sure that they can be improved. But at least that's how I saw it from my point of view. Was there's a lot of interesting nuances in here, and I think it's still kind of showing that a lot of the stuff that came up from Gamersgate, as well as just the underlying, there's a lot more people who are playing games nowadays. This community that back in the 90s would be classified as like basement dwelling nerds is changing. And do we address that, or do we like become inclusive, or what?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's definitely a very interesting thing was going on. And I think that what also has to be said about it is one of the things I've noticed is you had like the proponents of individuals like Anita Sarkeesian, who was propping her voice up about it because this was a female employee that was getting sacked, and how outlandish it seems like that it was being reacted to by the ArenaNet, right? But then at the same time, you had Price herself was actually on record saying this was has nothing to do with sexism. It's nothing to do with that. It's all about the integrity.
Yeah,
has nothing to do with about the whole gender equality or anything like that. And she's been on record for saying that. Whereas you look back and somebody who is very for the what a lot would call the feminism movement. Who's taking it in their
who may or may not be pushing an agenda of their own.
Exactly. Yes. They're using it towards an agenda, to suit their what they want to do.
Yeah.
But I think that it also does speak volumes on a lot of things that are going on. Like we were kind of talking before the show, other things that are just going on as far as if you look at what was it, Rainbow Six Siege. They started, now they're banning people because of using inappropriate language, being insulting, bullying, harassing, and so on and so forth. It's causing a bit of an uproar because you got so much of a proponent like, oh, you're blocking free speech, yada, yada, yada. But sorry, that technically only applies to America. And even then, it's not really.
Well, I think the EU's got their own version of like free speech and things of that nature, but they have different rules. And again, the free speech thing is only that the government doesn't have the ability to suppress you. Any private enterprise or something of that nature.
Exactly. And that's the thing about it.
And I'm pretty sure those TOSs that we all sign when we install things, and that just tell you that they can sell our souls. If
they also took to Twitter and they were yelling at the the Rainbow Six Siege Twitter like, I got blaming for dropping the N-bomb is essentially what it was about. And the Twitter handle just responded, good, period. And I think that I think that it was a good response, in an oxymoronic way. Nice, short, simple, to the point. You don't have to go off on a rant about exactly why, because I mean, from the outside looking in, everybody knows why. And you were actually speaking about some changes that are being made as far as community-wise with Overwatch.
Yeah, just they've rolled out the endorsement systems, mostly. So, like, the biggest thing about a lot of these shooters or a lot of these mass multiplayer games is that the community, it's the greater internet dickwad theory, which is if you make a normal person, you give them anonymity and then a captured audience, pure and vile stupidity will come out of their mouth. So you have people who just say things because it's shock value, or they'll just say things because they have emotional issues, or they'll say things because they're just full of crap and they just need an outlet for it. And so when you get into a lot of these games, especially if you play like competitive stuff or stuff like that, like Rainbow Six, you just have people like, why would you need to drop the N-word on somebody? Why would you need to insult someone's race or culture or sexuality or gender preferences or anything like that? It doesn't fit. Like, you could be like, hey man, you suck at this game, or hey man, do better. And like, even that's kind of rough to a degree. It's just like, hey man, that sucks. You don't have to throw that at other people.
Right.
So they created this new endorsement system that's kind of rewarding you for being positive. So the first thing that occurred was a lot of people are like, yeah, chat's now filled with like, hey man, good job, or oh man, we totally lost that point, but we'll get it next time. And the funny thing is that it's part of a psychological effect, is that if you reinforce positivity, the fake it till you make it thing, like this works for some people for like depression or anxiety issues. If you do a positive reaction to a thing that normally you'd have the negative, you're going to start associating that with that action. So then eventually, like, hey man, good job is less sarcastic and more like, hey man, good job, because it's become rote memory, and then you just say positive things now versus spewing obscenities.
Right on. What about you, Ripper? What do you think about what do you have a take on this whole subject?
I mean, I having listened to that and the gist of it, I have no stance on whether or not she should have been fired, how it was handled. It's whatever. Like, companies do what they want to do, but same time, if you got somebody like, I'm an engineer now, and if I had somebody coming in who didn't have the same background I have, who's like, hey man, like, here's how you do your job.
I think we're having audio difficulties.
I think that we completely lost.
But yeah, but Reaper did, that point of like, hey, if you are at a job and you're a professional and you literally have someone who walks in off the street and is like, hey, you should totally do this. Is like, well, yes, I know that. I'm a professional. I've thought of that. That doesn't apply in this situation. That's a very valid response. But, people are emotional beings. Sometimes they respond things, I wouldn't say necessarily in this case emotionally, but that's a very human reaction to things.
Yeah, and, I think that it does speak very very large in the volumes of, especially in gaming, because I've played Ark for years and everything, and I mean every Ark player will tell you that it is a very toxic game, and there's a lot of individuals that will tell you they don't like who they become when they start playing Ark as they get further into it. At the same token, that same sentence of saying it's a very toxic community, that starts applying whenever you start talking about any of these games. So it kind of like goes to show, in a way, I feel like that there's a lot of individuals out there that, as much as they like to compete, they don't know how to compete in a sportsmanlike way. And that's why. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think you bring up a really great point of that we have, I would say, a generation of gamers that, we started gaming, and I don't like to throw out the back of my day card, but like when we started gaming, we were doing gaming in person. Like, we played Halo and Halo 2 by bringing 4 televisions and 4 Xboxes into a room together and playing. You played LAN parties in a room together so that if you were doing the shit talking, you could only go so far, because if you stepped out of line a little bit, there's someone there who will physically respond to that. But you have an entire generation of people that just like, I could put on this microphone and I am safe in my home to say whatever I want because no one knows who I am. And I can just be the indomitable figure of badass attitude I keep in my head because I'm a sad individual on the inside. Or they SWAT people because they're full of shit. But yeah, sportsmanship. I think that in person, the ability to respond to people who are stepping out of line a little bit as a society has been removed from the online group. And I feel like we need to make a device so that you plug it in and then it's just like you start shit talking a little too much, people can vote on it, it just slaps you. Like, is Dizzy being too much of a shit today?
I feel like that's. It's one of those things that you could probably apply to everywhere. Like, to be honest, I kind of wish that kind of thing was, put into more games. I know in Ark, it's crazy that you got a lot of censorship that actually happens in Ark. I mean, so much to the point that you can't say Kanye. Like you can't type in Kanye's name. It'll blank it out. Your message won't be sent. They have the words that are censored, but not enough of that is throughout everywhere. And it goes back to the sentimental points of things like years ago when Sony said that we're not doing crossplay because we got to think about the kids, because they don't trust other communities, and that also goes to show that sometimes you can't even manage your own because, I mean, for how long has everybody said that the 13-year-olds on Call of Duty, that are telling you how much of a whore your mom is?
Yeah.
It's just, it's crazy the direction. And then, I mean, just aside from that, there's a lot of points you can make where fans, they get so passionate about the games that they love that they forget that these people that are making it, they're also people as well. They also do have feelings. And I'll be honest, I feel like that has a lot to do with, individuals like Cliffy B, why they're currently, taking a hiatus from game development and everything, because the man went out there, he made some decisions and not everybody agreed with it, and those who didn't agree with it, they let him know, and they were very blunt about what they thought about it. So much to the degree that a lot of the nasty things that were being said, I wouldn't be surprised if it ate at him, because just from the outside, it's one of those. I find myself oftentimes whenever I see some of these comments that are flying around through things like Twitter, I have to remember that I don't want to engage in that conversation because it will. There's a lot of these individuals. You're not going to change their mind on the way that they think, the way that they act. I'm glad that now these bans are starting to pop up on these said individuals because, sorry, some of them, they just need to be put in their place, But again, it goes to show a little bit about the game devs versus the gamer, like how that interaction should be. At the end of the day, I think that we should respect one another. You don't have to agree. There's a lot of individuals that are on my Twitter. Whenever I can see them interacting with one another, I can tell they don't get along. But, at the end of the day, I don't understand why they act the way that they do towards one another. It's just how it is. But yeah, so that was a little bit of a sour subject, unfortunately. So, yeah. So there's new things going on in World of Warcraft. Is that right, Duke?
Well, today is pre-patch day for the new expansion, Battle for Azeroth. So this is the first of the actual pre-expansion patch. Like before the expansion hits, they have a pre-patch that kind of like leads into it softly. So a lot of the old stuff from Legion are going away, like artifact weapons. The new PvP system is in place called War Mode, which is for the longest time PvP in World of Warcraft. Like I was never a big fan of PvP personally, but I was a pretty big PvE player. PvP servers are kind of dead in the sense that with War Mode, it's every server is now a PvE server. You go to your capital, you turn on PvP, you get sharded, which is like they're phasing into a world with a lot of other players who are PvP, so then you're able to go hog wild and kill enemy players whenever you want. It's no longer you walk into an area, you automatically flag up for PvP, and you get killed or kill other people. So they kind of like fixed a community issue there. The expanded races are in, like the allied races and stuff like that you've been able to work towards. I think that's going to be expanded up. I think what else? Big stuff for this. But those are like the two big things that a lot of people have been looking forward to. So I'm really interested to see how the Night Elves lose their home and how the Undead lose their home. So for people who don't play, the two faction capitals for them, the Night Elves, like in a lot of the artwork, is Teldrassil. The World Tree is burning for some reason, and then the opening cinematic that you saw was the Siege of the Underdark by the Allied forces to bring back Lordaeron, which was like the strongest of the human kingdoms. And I'm just gonna go ahead and readjust my nerd glasses just a moment. So wow, new expansion about a month away. Yeah.
How's the population? Has it dwindled any, or do you feel that it's maintained?
So I'm not gonna lie, I haven't been subscribed for like the last few months. I do the cycle thing, which I think a lot of people did, but Legion was really strong on trying to keep people into it because they've had a really great end game, consistent updating and stuff like that. The reason I fell out of it is just because of money issues on some other things. So the biggest thing for WoW, and at least with expansions coming out consistently, is there's always a huge surge as it pulls a lot of people back in, especially now. Because if you buy like a subscription for this one, you're getting every game prior. So if you buy, like if you never played WoW before, Diz, and you bought in to Battle for Azeroth, you get Burning Crusade, Wrath of the Lich King, Mists of Pandaria, Cataclysm, Warlords of Draenor, Legion expansion, and then this game. So you're getting 7 expansions for the cost of one.
Mm-hmm.
Free, like you're just gonna play this game now.
So how have they been handling? Like, of course, I never played WoW. Well, I can't say I've never played it.
You never
I've
played
never been into
extensively into WoW, yeah.
Yeah, I think I may have gotten to like level 10, and then I was like, okay, well, this is cool, and then just never logged back in. How do they take old expansions, and as you are still expanding it, do they still make those worthwhile to go play?
And that's actually kind of one of the big things that they've been changing because it used to be you go through an area, you're done with it, you never go back, right? So after like Warlords of Draenor and with Legion, one of the big life changes that they made is they were making it so that you can go back to these older places and there's kind of not necessarily new content but better content there. So leveling up is a lot more streamlined, I would think, for a new player versus like an old guy who played back in like 2008 like I did. So it's a lot less grindy. It's a lot more like streamlined, a little bit more like a couple mods, and makes WoW a lot more immersive. But the big thing is like they're bringing back classic servers for the super hardcore guys who want to do that type of nonsense. They're remaking and streamlining some areas more so, especially with this coming back to Azeroth, because like the last 3 games have been us leaving the planet, going somewhere else. This one's going to be we're staying here, we're making Azeroth great again, right? So
wear your red hats, everybody.
A lot of big walls. So we're going to be fighting a lot here, exploring some new areas that were found on Azeroth or that were shielded off or whatever. So I think they're doing a lot to kind of fix that, in the sense that like you still want to be connected to the world that you're supposed to be representing and fighting for.
Reaper, did you ever play WoW?
I played a little bit of it, and by a little bit I mean I played like 4 days after that 30-day free trial when you buy the game, and I was like, not buy.
And the good thing about WoW is that it's consistent. Like if you played WoW and you liked it, you're gonna love it because it's not really gonna change out of a core aspect. The other thing is that it will always take the most successful things from other MMOs or other games and start working it in there if they can fix it. So like looking for group concepts, looking for raids, modulability, like just so many different life changes are consistently going into WoW because they have a fairly active community. I think that was kind of one of your questions, was how the community is doing. It always swells up at expansions and they'll bleed off, but I think this last Legion expansion had like the least amount of people dropping off over time. It's usually like Warlords of Draenor, I played for 4 months and then I was done with it.
Right on. So,
my
Warcraft itself, it had a movie, and recently there was a fan made little clip of somebody we all know that was running around, and I think that he's a lot of people's favorite voiceover actor. Has anybody else seen the Uncharted fan made demo?
Or fan made movie with Nathan Fillion?
Yeah.
Yes, I watched it today. I thought it was very well done. Again, I think they might be pushing the Ryan Reynolds Deadpool route of make a really great fan film, shop around a little bit, see if anyone wants to pick it up. Maybe Sony can throw them a couple $1 million. Maybe they can make it and, make an incredibly lucrative payoff on it. Because again, Deadpool cost the first Deadpool only cost $80 million, and they made like 500, I think, at the end of that run.
Mm-hmm.
For a rated R film, it did incredibly well. So
Absolutely
hey, I mean that's a smart way of doing it.
I myself, I've never been a big. I've never played the Uncharted, just because I've never been big into that kind of genre. So it's just never intrigued me. But it's nice to see. I like seeing when there are games that do have a good narrative that have the potential to cross over into that movie platform. But of course, it can always make you nervous because you could always end up with like a Super Mario or a Tomb Raider situation, and then with the Angelina Jolie versions of it. But yeah, and also just kind of related because we're talking about Nathan Fillion, which I titled this as Nathan Fillion, is he gaming's GOAT? Eurogamer kind of spilled the beans of the fact that for Forsaken, he's not the ghost, or he's not the voice actor for Cade 6.
Yeah, I've heard some conspiracy theories about that. Like that might be changing like the narrative of that, because why would they kill their most most, I guess, promotable character from the series. Because I mean,
he's definitely a fan favorite. You can definitely tell me that. Most everybody loves Cade 6. So yeah, it does come. It kind of like goes to wonder why. Now, of course, the actual voice actor was another fan favorite, Nolan North. So he did fill in the shoes. I mean, myself, I had no idea that he wasn't voice acting it. I just assumed that this was just his last reprisal, and then we'll see him as Buck later on in the Halo series. Mm-hmm. It's kind of crazy that he's not actually voicing. So I'm curious of how many lines or how involved he might have been with the rest of this. This also kind of goes back to the previous Destiny when they ended up getting rid of Peter Dinklage as the voice of the bot, which for most everybody, I didn't really care either way. It didn't bother me the way that his voice acting sounded, but I know that there was a lot of individuals that were turned off by it. They thought it sounded too robotic. Of course, I'm thinking in the back of my mind, of course it sounds too robotic. He's a robot, you fucking idiot.
Yeah, but yeah. I enjoyed Dinklebot. I understand that it was definitely kind of like, I think, a Game of Thrones cash-in, because that's when Game of Thrones theater was like fever pitch-ish. But at the same time, that wizard came from the moon. Like, it's funny in its own little ways, unintentionally funny, but I can also understand why they redubbed it. Like, I'd prefer Dinklebot. I wish there was an option to keep, like, you could just switch, because I mean, they already had the lines there.
I thought so. I thought that myself, and it always hurts going back. And I have to say this because, again, Nolan North, he is great at what he does. However, I'll be completely 100% honest with this. I think that he's a terrible bot that follows you around. That's why I call him Stolen Bot. Is he stole the role from Peter Dinklage, probably cost less and a better schedule to work with. That's probably the reason. And also with Nathan Fillion, this is also might have a little bit to do with that because, there were the rumors of this whole Uncharted thing before this thing popped up. It's kind of crazy to think that he would have pushed Destiny to the side just to do a fan film of something that, potentially may get a movie. It may not. So it's kind of has my curiosity of what else might be going on that he's kind of pulling out of that. And if he's pulling out of that, I'm curious if he's going to be still reprising his Buck, because he also voices Buck in Halo. So yeah. So who's everybody's favorite Hollywood character in all of gaming?
Hollywood character in all of gaming?
A character that is being reprised by somebody that is from Hollywood.
That's a hell of a question.
I'd have to say, if I were going off of my statement, I think that my favorite is Jack Black when he's in Brutal Legend.
That's a good one.
Because his character and his persona fits that to the T, that I could actually see Jack Black doing that as a movie. I could see him doing that as Tenacious D. I feel like that they just threw him up there and it stuck.
I mean, Brutal Legend was kind of Tenacious D, the video game.
It pretty much it was. Exactly. Anybody else? Well, it looks like that we lost Reaper, so it's just us, Duke.
Oh, okay. That's fair.
Would you say anybody else?
I mean, I like Nathan Fillion when he played Buck, just because it worked for me. I just like, hell, I even got his voice. It's the only microtransaction I bought for Halo 5 was the voice pack that he does the announcer stuff. Man, no, it's just, now that I'm trying to think of like Hollywood stars who voice people in video games, I don't really, off the top of my head, I don't have a whole lot to think.
That's probably something. Let's say this: we're gonna take this. We're gonna pin this on the board in our next podcast. We're gonna come back and we're gonna have a whole listing.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to
actors.
Yeah.
We'll do that as our homework assignment. So I think that the last thing that we'll touch on and everything, it's just us two. So we'll go ahead and we'll make this quick and everything. So of course, there's rumors about the Scarlet Xbox that is coming out. We all know that the next Xbox will be coming out, the next PlayStation 5. Of course, we've already talked last time about the Lagoog, of what the potential of that would be. So right now, it seems like that there's a lot of people that are heating up on the whole the next Xbox, and I think that a lot of it has to do with the fact that whenever the One X released, it is now the most powerful console. Of course, PS5. You could only imagine that this is going to have to be a step above the One X. So if that's the case, I'm curious if Scarlet is going to maintain that power control. And if so, what would be your wish list? What would the Scarlet have to do to really impress you to say, Duke, buy me on the first day, please?
Well, one, they got to go back to the astrology names. So instead of the Scarlet, we could call it maybe the Xbox Cancer.
Why not the Gemini? Give me two of them.
Or the Pisces, because it's two fish and they're always chasing each other. Capricorn, because it's capricious. But no, the biggest, and I think Microsoft's working towards it because we talked about it after E3, which was just they need to secure a lot of the mid-range developers, which Microsoft's already putting out feelers for new exclusives. Not necessarily exclusives, but they just need kind of like a first-party system like Nintendo has, where it's like, I need a stable of games that I know they're going to be good to excellent to make me want to keep coming back. Because, like, they had that with Gears of War, they had that with Forza, they had that with Halo, but that was, 10 years ago, where it's like, oh, definitely getting the new Halo, it looks amazing. Definitely getting new Gears of War, I want multiplayer fun. Like, they don't really have kind of that callback ability now. Like, they got some games that they're trying to build up on, but like nothing's hooking like it used to. And I don't know if that's just because we're getting older as a community or that nature. It's just there's got to be something that Microsoft does that's like, you need to get the system because it's going to have these things for it. Now, they could push this big thing with Nintendo with the whole cross-play stuff and just keep building off of that. It's like, hey...
Do you think that there might be some that they will actually carry over to the next generation?
I would... Because it also falls on developers. Developers have to be able, like, okay, we want this to work on everything, right? So I don't know, because I'm not a programmer or a developer of any sort, that, how difficult that may be versus just making it for your system and then going, right? If you could do that, that would be a really great publicity coup for Microsoft, which they don't get a whole lot of just simply, hey, we know that you have friends that play other consoles. That's not wrong. We work with Nintendo and we work with PC. Get your friends to buy these games and play them together. Power to the gamers type stuff. Like, put the onus back on gamers to buy the games that they need or they want for their friends and then work that angle. That's a really great way to circumvent the first party thing, because like I'll buy a game if all my friends are playing it just to play with them, because that's what I want to do. Like, I love playing games. Absolutely. I buy my single players, but I also enjoy playing it with friends more so, like, because the game is just an outlet for giving us a reason to hang out and do stuff in the crazy life that is being an adult.
I feel a little bit also one thing that it is kind of an advantage for both Microsoft and Nintendo's, because Nintendo really does want to go this the portable route. So that's why it doesn't seem like that they're really focused on making sure that they have the high-end graphics or this or that. They want it to be able to run well enough so that you can play it. And now if you have this chance to be able to do the portability, it almost gives you enough incentive that, hey, you can buy this on the Xbox. You can also buy it on the Nintendo, so that if you want to take this on the go and still play with your friends across, like on the Xbox and everything. Of course, you are 100% right. It is going to fall on the developers. If the developers aren't supporting it, then it's kind of like dead in the water. I would definitely say, and you're definitely on that aspect. So what about hardware wise? What do they need to do in there to say, hey, buy me?
I mean, keep it at a competitive price point. Keep it at that $500. I think that $500-$400 is kind of like the top out for a console for most people. Like, after that range, it's just like, I have money that I could spend. I ain't paying rent to get a console. Keep the price point low. Keep it as close to cutting edge as they can. Because, I mean, consoles are getting closer and closer to PCs. Like, I just bought a $300 video card for my computer, and that's just one component of a gamer, or like for a PC versus a console. So, I mean, keep working, because Microsoft has the ability to flex a lot of muscle in the tech world. We can't push that aside. It's just, I guess Microsoft has to make the choice itself as a bigger corporation, is like how much support do they want to push down to their gaming division? Because I mean, I'm pretty sure if Microsoft really wanted to flex it, they could make something crazy, take the hit on the bottom line to push these things out if they wanted to try to crush Sony in that arena. I just think they never tried to do it.
Crazy thing, especially with them, because they've had a lot of really great concepts. You know, a lot of things that some of them are a little bit of head scratchers, but when you also think about it, is it seems kind of intriguing, and you kind of almost want to try it. Like the Lumina room, whenever they were first talking about the Kinect and adding another peripheral called the Lumina room, or the Illumini room, or however it was pronounced. And, you know, essentially it turned your whole living room into part of the game, and it could sense, you know, how far away certain objects were, and it was able to reflect the light in a certain way. It expanded your TV, so that if you didn't have a big TV, how can we get it to see this way? And then, of course, the HoloLens, you know, that's been in its project state for I don't know how long. I don't think it's ever going to release. I think that's just a passion project that they want to work on. It we're never going to see that. But you add that into the gaming, because I know that they brought that in. They've had the whole Minecraft show off where people are using their fingers to put the Minecraft blocks and everything. Like, why don't we have that? Of course, PSVR over with the PlayStation is kind of odd that Microsoft right now, you would have thought that with the One X that they would have been supporting it by now, and I know that they talked about that they would be, but they just haven't. Have you done any VR yourself?
I've actually been looking into it, just because, like I said, the kidney money is kind of keeping me above water for a little bit. Of looking into and speaking to a couple friends who have both the HTC Vive and the Oculus Rift, and kind of the plus or minus on that. So I think I might lean a little bit more towards the Vive, but they're also having a new headset coming out relatively soon. So I might wait for that to come out, see if I can probably get one on the cheap. I think VR is past the gimmick stage now, and is now moving towards the like legitimate. We get like really great if we get a really solid AAA game, I think it changes a lot. Because if you watch a lot of videos like on how first person shooters, stuff like that work, not let alone the immersion of the gunfight, but like the stuff that you can do that they program. So it's like, since everything's like physics based, like you can run around and take the magazine of out of friends or opponents' weapons. Like that's not something that happens in any other console shooter that I've ever played, because the interaction's not there to that pinpoint, right? But if you could do that, that's just hysterical. If you literally played a shooter where you just ran around and just took people's stuff,
yeah,
you chamber their rounds and then just like punch them a couple times, that'd be funny.
We're playing Call of Duty, not stealing.
Yeah.
This is not Thief.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, I forgot what game I was playing for a moment here. Absolutely, I'd say that if I were to, I definitely would want to see a boost in the CPU.
Yeah. Work the processor, get that chipboard working well.
Yeah, get the CPU boosted up quite a bit, because I mean, once you get past that bottleneck, it just opens everything up for you. And I think that's been what has been holding the consoles back, is just that everything's been bottlenecked by that CPU because of how quickly everything's been moving. You know, they had a chance to have that advantage when the chips themselves with the cryptocurrency, and it was causing all of the video cards to go so high up and everything. They had an opportunity to try to take advantage of that, but they just didn't move quick enough. And like you said, the prices are moving down. So, you know, of course, CPU will be back on that, or the PC itself will just be back on the rebound from all of that. But I would definitely have to say that, you know, if they could boost that CPU, make sure that there is enough so that it can last a little bit longer. It's kind of odd, because I know that everybody talks about like, oh, well, the console cycles should only really last 5 to 6 years and everything. And I mean, I don't personally have a problem gaming on something that might be 10 years old on 10-year-old tech, if it can support it. Because if it can support it, then why not? Why do you have to move something a little bit further? You know, it's a little bit different from DVD to Blu-ray, whereas now we're in the Blu-ray 4K and everything. I don't mind moving from the VHS to the DVD. It's an important enough jump. So they would definitely need to do something important enough to warrant me to pick it up. But I know day one I'll probably be in there. They'll find a way to weasel it in, maybe slide a little bit of DRM and tell me that if I want to go play the old games, go play it on the Xbox One. They got a plenty full library for that.
Yeah.
So was there any last words or any last subjects we needed to touch on before we're out of here?
I mean, I think we kind of covered everything for the last couple of weeks. I know more stuff's kind of probably pop up. Oh, hey, I heard about this like really small indie convention out in California called Comic-Con. Something might be coming out of that. Maybe
I've heard there might be things that go on there.
Oh no, it's a small regional thing. I don't think we need to worry about it.
I saw this thing that they were going to be showing off a trailer to some like guy that's swimming around the ocean. Yeah, I think that he thinks that he's Zeus or Poseidon, whichever Greek god is in the water.
I think I saw that. I watched Poseidon, King of the Bros.
Yeah, so I believe that they got some little low budget flick that he might be involved in. I think that they picked up some guy from some old WB show from back in the day, one of the Conan shows. Yeah, he might be reprising that role. I don't know. Yeah, I've heard something about that Comic-Con.
So we'll probably bring that up next time.
Very likely.
Keep an eye on it.
Very likely. We'll see what ends up popping up there. Well, so we'll do a little quick outro. Duke, where can the fine folks find you at?
I am contractually obligated to plug my Twitter, which is Duke of Deception at Deception Duke. Yeah, go there if you want to be bored, as I do not update it at all. And if it is updated, it's not me. Those are lies. Do not believe those.
It sounds about right. And of course, you can find me at Twitter at iDizzy81, as well as the Xbox here at YouTube and on Mixer. And we are moving the podcast to a every other week format. So next week we won't be doing any podcasting, but you may catch us doing some streaming. So definitely tune in for that. We'll be sharing links through the Twitter so that you know how to find that and locate us and be able to follow through there. But I do thank everybody for coming to hang out, and we're out. Peace.
Have a good day.